welcome back. Underwater levels again. We're not going to do any gameplay this time. This time, I'm just going to talk about the NES Classic Mini, because I've been getting some questions about it. So, I've owned it for about a year, so I thought it would be fun to talk about it. I know, a lot of retro viewers, when it first came out, there was a lot of retro viewers talking about it and going over, mainly just going over the library, but other things that were good about it. So, now that I've owned it for a year, I thought it would be a cool time to talk about it. And I'm gonna hold off on talking about the games until the end. I thought it'd be more relevant to talk about, just some of the little nitpicks that are both positive and negative. Right off the bat, buying one of these things is still a pain in the neck. That was one of the biggest complaints when it came out. That is still one of the biggest complaints. If you want to buy one, you have to be prepared to pay a premium. They go for $100, maybe $130, sometimes even more. You're still basically paying I'm going to use the term opportunistic reseller. I know the appropriate term is supposed to be scalper, but just in the interest of not saying anything that could be deemed in any way, shape, or form of being offensive, I'm not going to use that word. I'm going to know when I say reseller, I'm talking about, someone who buys it with the intention of reselling it at a higher price. And eBay still has plenty of those. It's still very much a problem. And it's one of those problems that Nintendo isn't going to address, because when they were selling the Nintendo Mini and the Super Nintendo Mini, they were selling out. It didn't matter that it was resellers that were buying them so that they could sell them at a higher price on eBay. As long as the units are being sold, that's all that mattered. And we're seeing that, consumers lose on that one, the company wins on that one, and the resellers win on that one as well. We saw a similar problem with the launch of the Sony PlayStation 5, and I don't know, it just seems like there's a way to work around this problem, but no one seems to want to fix it, so I'm gonna leave that rant alone. That's actually a story that I think maybe the Vintage Gamer would do better on. That sort of seems to be something that's a little more in his wheelhouse. So the question that I get a lot about this is input lag. Everyone wants to know whether or not the NES Mini is technically proficient, if there's any kind of input lag. And looking at the game library, I think the Punch-Out is probably the one game in the library that, if there was any kind of input lag, it would certainly show up in that game, where you need to have very precision input to be successful. So, I haven't noticed any input lag. I know that there's many schools of thought among hardcore retro gamers. Some of them are real purists and insist that the true only way to play retro Nintendo games is to buy the authentic unit, to play it on a CRT television with a coaxial hookup, and that's the only way that it's going to not give you any input lag whatsoever. And then if you want to, stream it or record it, capture it, you have to have a top-of-the-line capture card and a expensive, $1,000 upscaler like a FrameMeister. If money's no object, fine. I think that's one way you could go, but just my experience, there's no input lag, and for me, what was the selling point was the HDMI input. The games look great, and there are ways to adjust the visual settings. The demo might show it off a little bit, but there's something called, you can change, I think, the aspect ratio, and you can change it to something called pixel perfect. But either way, the visuals look great. The HDMI hookup looks great. And if you're streaming or you want to upload game footage, without without breaking the bank and having to get a CRT and a upscaler. This is one way to do it. It's still kind of pricey. If money's tight, then I think obviously the way to go is emulation. There are still some minor flaws visually. Like, it's really noticeable on games like Super Mario Bros. 3 or Mega Man 2. You know, I noticed them and pointed them out in my playthroughs of those games on the Mini. There's still like some light screen flickering. There's still a little bit of slowdown when there's a lot going on the screen. You would have thought that those problems could have been fixed. I guess it makes for a more authentic classic Nintendo game experience, but I don't know. I just thought, you know, when I picked it up that it would have been fixed. And one thing I kind of left out, if you are someone that's interested in picking up the Mini, do yourself a favor and communicate with the seller before you purchase them, because there are some very convincing forgeries out there. When I bought my Nintendo Mini, I made the mistake of not communicating with the seller, and the packaging looked 100% legit. The poster and the other papers that came inside the packaging, those looked 100% legit. The hardware looked 100% legit, but within 30 seconds, I'd say, of plugging it in, I could tell right off the bat it was fake. It was not HDMI. The picture looked terrible. The sound was off. Horrible input lag. And had to go through the process of getting in contact with the seller, returning the item, and that's no fun. So save yourself the trouble if you are interested in getting a Mini, and make sure that you communicate with your seller and verify that it is, in fact, the genuine article. So a couple other nitpicks, positive and negative. The suspend states, basically save states. Those are really nice. That's one of the most endearing features. There's the visual, by the way. You can get it with the CRT filter and the pixel perfect. But moving on, the suspend states, very useful. Take a game like Super Mario Bros. 3. You know, you play it for an hour, and if you beat it, then if you continue after the credits roll, then the game gives you 28 P-Wings to start. That's really cool, but unfortunately you don't want to play Super Mario Bros. 3 again for another couple hours. You just finished it. So, you know, that was kind of a problem with the original cartridge growing up, was, yeah, you get Super Mario Bros. 3 and you beat it and you get the P-Wings, but you don't want to play it anymore. So the suspend state, you know, you beat it, and then you can create the suspend state, and you can, from whenever you play it from then on, you can fire it up and have 28 P-Wings every time. It's also really cool because you think of games like Zelda 2 or the original Legend of Zelda or Final Fantasy, which use battery backup saves inside the cartridge. Those batteries eventually fail after 30 years, so it's really nice to be able to have permanent save data. One minor complaint I'd like to bring up, and this is just because I have a soft spot for instruction manuals, but so the instruction manuals for old Nintendo games have been scanned and put online in PDF format. You know, it's no problem to look them up and get them. With the Nintendo Mini, I thought it was cool that the instruction manuals were included. They're up there at the top. Unfortunately, if you open up that menu option, it's just QR codes. Basically, you have to scan the code with your, you know, your smartphone or whatever, and then you get the instruction manuals on your phone. Well, that's no fun. I thought, you know, would it have been such a hassle to put it on the game to be able to put it on the system to be able to just access them from there. I don't know why you have to scan it with your phone. That seems really silly to me. And then there's the big question, to mod or not to mod. I know that I'm probably in the minority on this one, but I think it's an absolute sin to mod your Nintendo Mini. I realize it only has 30-something games on it, and that might seem like a slim library, and it kind of is. The device is clearly capable of holding more data than that. But, am I willing to, you know, put some kind of software on it to mod it that I'm not familiar with? Am I willing to maybe, like, trust it to someone who insists they know what they're doing? No. You know, going through the hassle and paying to get a Nintendo Mini it's no picnic, and the idea of altering it and risking doing damage to it is, that's a hard pass, for me. Like, I think modding it would be a bad idea. So then we get to the games. There's, as you can see, it's running Contra. It looks like it's running it with the CRT filter to look like it did back in the day. So we have Super C, you know, the second Contra game, but no Contra. That's okay. Most gamers like Super C better. We got Mario 2 USA, but not the Super Mario 2 Japan. I think that one was on the Famicom Mini, which makes sense. Still, I think it would have been cool to have the Japanese Super Mario 2 and the American Super Mario 2. So Ninja Gaiden is on that, but not Ninja Gaiden 3. That's kind of a shame. I think Ninja Gaiden 3 is better. Castlevania 1 and 2 are included, but not Castlevania 3. And that is a real shame, because even though I'm not a big fan of the Castlevania games, Castlevania 3 is a top 5 game. It's a longer game. It's got a lot of replay value. So I think they really made a mistake with that one. No Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games. That one's very surprising, because the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game was a real hot seller for the system back in 1989, and I think it even won Game of the Year in Nintendo Power. They gave it the Best Game Award for 1989, so real surprised not to see that one. Batman, that one's also a fan favorite that wasn't included. DuckTales, Jackal, Rygar. Battletoads, that's another one. That one, Game of the Year in Nintendo Power's 1991 issue. That one's not included. One that really stumps me is Tetris. Such a classic game. There was an officially licensed Nintendo version of Tetris, not just the Tengen cartridge. So, real surprised not to see a classic like Tetris on there. For me, obviously, the most disappointing one is that there's only one Mega Man game, and it's Mega Man 2, the one everyone's already familiar with. I think they should have at least included one more. Probably Mega Man 1. Either Mega Man 1 or Mega Man 3 also should have been included on the system. That's probably the most common complaint. But then me personally, aside from, you know, the lack of Mega Man games, they went kind of light on the black box games. You know, the games that were made by Nintendo for the Nintendo. And, you know, there's some good ones. There's the original Mario Brothers, which I love. I think Super Mario Brothers is considered a black box game. Ice Climbers, which is not my favorite, but I think it's okay. That's on there. Donkey Kong Jr., Balloon Fight, which I don't like. Excite Bike's on there. But then look at all the ones that aren't on there. There's no Wrecking Crew, there's no Pinball, there's no Popeye, there's no Golf. And even though Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. are on there, there's no Donkey Kong 3, which I've become very fond of lately. I would have liked to have had that one on there. And, you know, a real nitpick of mine is that two of the spots that occupy the library on the Nintendo Mini. One is Donkey Kong and one is Donkey Kong Jr. They could have killed two birds with one stone by putting the Donkey Kong Arcade Classics on there, because Donkey Kong Arcade Classics, that cartridge had both Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. So that's real disappointing. They kind of unnecessarily had what could have been two games occupying one slot in the library. You know, it was kind of inefficient is what I'm getting at. So, yeah, real light on the black box games. You know, not all of them needed to be on there. Like, I don't think anybody wanted Urban Champion or anything like that. But Kung Fu would have been nice. But all in all, I do really like it, and I am getting quite a bit of mileage out of it. It's made it pretty simple for me to upload game footage without having too many problems, and with the video quality looking pretty good. So, again, my recommendation is, you know, if money is an issue, obviously go with emulation. But I really don't see any major problems with the system, other than there's still a problem dealing with resellers getting one. So, anyway, that's my rant on the NES Mini, and you know how much fun I've had with it, things that were done right and things that were done wrong. I was thinking of doing one for the Super Nintendo Mini, but it would probably be pretty much the same. I guess the one minor nitpick that I will come back with for the NES Mini is it doesn't have that one game that really makes you want to buy it. Like with the Super Nintendo Mini, obviously it's Earthbound, because Earthbound is like a $250 cartridge, and you know, if you can get the Super Nintendo Mini for $100 or $150 or whatever, it's got Earthbound on it, so it was a real big selling point for me and maybe other retro gamers. But the Nintendo Mini, if you look at the library, it doesn't really have that one game. But if you were to go out and, you know, buy a Nintendo front loader or top loader and try and get some of these games, you would have to pay a lot of money. So if you're someone that, you know, you don't like emulation, or you know, you want something with really good quality, I highly recommend it. Just again, be careful about shopping around for it. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll come back with some game footage next time.